So third graders, we're going to read chapter 3 in The Prince of the Pond. And I bet you're wondering, like, who is this frog? And why is he so weird and acting so unfrog-like and giving himself a name, Pin? What's that about? Let's read chapter 3, The Turtle, and see what we can find out. "What dat?" said Pin, leaping along the mud at the edge of the pond. "That's a water sow bug," I said. "How can you ask what it is? Are you feeling all right?" I stared at him. "You know water sow bugs, Pin. You have to. You must have eaten hundreds of them in your life. Every pond frog has." Pin swatted at the sawbug with his forefoot. It flew out of the shallow water onto the mud. I'd never seen a frog swat at something like that before. Pin stared at the 7 pairs of thrashing legs on the turned-over sawbug. "Not bug," he said. "Well, you're right. It's not a bug. It's a crustacean. But we call it a bug because it's so small." "Tiny opta," he said. "Opta?" "Tiny cafiff," he said. "Cafiff? Cafiff? Oh, crayfish, yes. And opta must be lobster. Yeah." I looked at Pin with new interest. The water birds that stopped here every spring and fall talk sometimes about the sea creatures, and I had heard them describe lobsters. Most of the frogs I knew were too afraid of being eaten to do anything but dive underwater when the birds came. I didn't dive, though. I hid among the rocks and listened. The other frogs knew only about the pond they lived in, but I knew whatever I overheard the birds say. I knew about the huge, wonderful world away from the pond. Pin must be a curious frog like me. Yes, I said, leaping closer to Pin. "The sowbug is like a tiny lobster." The sowbug righted itself. Pin swatted it onto its back again. "Opta good to eat," said Pin. "Who are you kidding? You've never tasted a lobster," I said. "I have eaten opta," said Pin, "many time." "What a story," I said. "Lobsters live in salt water. Amphibians don't. You've never been near a lobster." I shot out my tongue and ate the sowbug. "Don't give yourself airs. I'm impressed by your size alone. You don't need to make up silly stories about eating lobsters." "I have eaten opta many time." Pin drummed his forelegs in the mud. "Many time." At that moment, the mud moved. I leaped for the grassy bank. "Leap, you crazy frog!" I shouted. "Leap! Leap!" Pin stayed in his crouch, and the mud lifted up right under him. "Oh, leap!" I hopped about in the grass wildly. I feared the worst, and my fear was right. It was the dreaded snapping turtle. Pin sat smack dab in the middle of the back of the most hideous creature of the pond. What was the matter with that frog? He acted like he hadn't felt the movement in the mud. But all frogs feel the slightest movement, even in dry ground. Pin should have recognized the danger instantly. He should have leaped for safety, like any sensible frog. Like me. Instead, he sat there, looking around, helpless. It was as though he didn't know the first thing about pond life. Oh, poor dead frog. And just when it was beginning to get interesting knowing him, the turtle shook the mud off its face and lifted its horny high head. "Who's that on my back?" "Pin," said Pin. Pin? Who are you, Pin? Fog, said Pin. Fog? The turtle twisted its neck so that it could see Pin sitting on the high ridge of its shell. You're a frog. The fog Pin, said Pin. The fog Pin? The turtle snapped at the air a few times. Well, come on down here where I can eat you. I'm not dumb, said Pin. His tongue fell out. He pulled it back in. I had to admit, he looked dumb when he did that. Said the turtle. You're on my back. You're pretty dumb. No, said Pin, you're under me. You pretty dumb. You talk funny, said the turtle. Pin blinked. Okay, wise guy, said the turtle. Just try to get off of me. I'll snap you in half. Bad idea, said Pin. The turtle took a few steps forward. Did you fall off yet? You dumb, said Pin. Dumb, dumb, dumb. You're making me mad, said the turtle. You mad? I'm the one mad, said Pin. I'm a fog. What are you saying, said the turtle. What does being a frog have to do with you being mad? I'm mad at being a fog. Oh, I am mad, said Pin. You're mad at being a frog, said the turtle. Mad. You one dumb turtle and I'm one mad fog. You're going to be one dead fog in a minute, said the turtle. He leaned way to the left. Pin slid to the left. The turtle snapped just as Pin managed to pull himself back up the ridge of the shell. The turtle leaned way to the right. Pin slid to the right. The turtle snapped again, and again Pin managed to get back to the high ridge just in time. You the king of dumb, said Pin. You can't get me. Yes, I can, said the turtle. He leaned way to the right, but Pin leaped up and landed right on the shell ridge. He leaned way to the left, but Pin leaped again. Right, leap, left, leap. All right, shouted the turtle. This is war. He leaned all the way to the right and flipped over just as Pin leaped onto the mud. The turtle whipped around on its back and snapped. But Pin leaped again into the tall grasses beside me. Hi, he said. I stared at him. I'll get you yet, shouted the turtle as he struggled to stick his sawtooth tail down in the mud. You're too dumb, Pin shouted back. You're the dumb one. Then why you on back and I not on tummy? Next time, screamed the turtle. His tail was now fully in the mud. He used it to flip himself back on his feet. Next time. Pin leaped back toward the turtle. Stop, I called after him. Stay away from reptiles. He'll kill you. Pin picked up a stick in his mouth. I'd never seen a frog with a stick in his mouth before. My jaw fell open and my tongue lolled out. Right then, I must have looked like him when my tongue fell out. I snapped my tongue back into my mouth. Pin looked at the turtle and spit the stick through the air. The turtle snapped the stick in half. Pin picked up a rock in his mouth and looked at me. You're very crazy, I said. Pin spit the rock at the turtle. The turtle snapped at the rock. Ow! He screamed. That hurt! Pin leaped back beside me. Dumb, 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 he said.